If you're new to cruising but not to travel, you're going to notice some things are just simply different and, quite frankly, a little weird about a cruise ship vacation versus almost any other type of trip out there. There are a lot of universal truths when it comes to travel and things that you should do, but there are a few nuances, especially tips and tricks that we share all the time here on this channel that when we tell somebody who's never cruised before, they think we're absolutely bonkers for sharing it because it just simply is not something you think to do coming into cruise ships for the very first time. But the reality is a cruise ship vacation is really different than almost any other type of trip out there. And there are some tips and tricks that we recommend all the time that I think you should definitely be using. And also at the same time, you might think that is just plain weird. And today, I've got to look at some of the top things that people who've never cruised before think are absolutely crazy tips out there. Number one, booking a cruise 2 years early. I've got friends and family that I always want to encourage to go on a cruise with me. And when we sit down and talk to our friends and say, hey, let's book a cruise together, they think I'm going to suggest a cruise in like 3 to 6 months from now. Instead, I'm telling them about a cruise 1 to 2 years from now, and it just blows their mind that I could even think that far ahead, let alone start making vacation plans out there. But this isn't just me being proactive. This is me looking at the bigger picture because the reason to book a cruise 2 years early, Kenny, is to save money. By booking a cruise 1 or 2 years in advance, you're going to get the best possible prices. Generally speaking, when Royal Caribbean, or really any cruise line, puts out their cruises on sale, they'll do that about 2 years in advance. And when they do that, the ship has, of course, no cabins sold yet. But as people start to book cabins, there's less inventory, and that drives up prices. Royal Caribbean uses an algorithm to determine its prices. So the price of a cruise on sailing A will be different than a price of a cruise on sailing B because there's different demand factors involved with that. So as a result, the more booked up a cruise gets, the higher the prices go. So a generally good tip, and honestly the best money saving tip I can provide, is to book a cruise as early as you can. Booking a cruise 1 to 2 years early really will save you the most amount of money out there. Now I get it. It's hard to plan anything more than like a year out because it's hard to anticipate not only school calendars and PTO time, but also what you're going to be in the mood for. The good news, though, is that, of course, if you book refundable cruise fare, you can always change your mind up until the final payment date. But more importantly, it allows you to get a better sense of pricing and options that are out there. Get the cabin you want, because when you wait till the last minute to book a room, you might not get the type of room that you want out there. But when you book 1 or 2 years in advance, pretty much all the cabins are there. And if you're interested in a suite, you absolutely positively want to book your cruise as early as you can because suites are the first category to sell out. So booking a cruise like more than a year out is not only going to save you money, it's also going to get you the best possible cabin out there. The second tip that really blows people's mind is to book 2 cabins instead of 1. So a lot of people are really conditioned, I think, in terms of travel to just simply book a place for your family, right? You book a hotel room, you book Airbnb, you book it for everyone within the same room, house, whatever, right? This seems perfectly logical, and it works on land quite a bit, but on a cruise ship, it's very different, especially if you have 4 or more people you're trying to book, especially kids. So on a cruise ship, rooms are going to be much smaller than you're accustomed to on land. Like even hotel rooms, cruise ship cabins are very, very small. Having a cruise ship cabin that is 200 square feet or even less is not uncommon. And even if you have 4 people in the cabin, it's not going to feel spacious at all. It's going to be very cramped. And a lot of people just simply say, well, it is what it is. I'm going to book 1 room for all of us. And either they book like 1 cabin, like a standard cabin for 4 people, or if they have more than 4 people, they try to go to a suite because they're thinking, listen, this is the only option that's out there. But instead, you could book 2 connecting cabins instead of 1 room. And this is a real game changer. Number 1, booking 2 cabins may actually not be as expensive as 1 cabin, especially if you're comparing it to a suite. If you've got 5 or 6 people in your party, and you want to be obviously staying together, well, booking a suite, which is pretty much all you're going to have available to you for a family that size, is going to cost a lot because the jumping in price from a balcony to a suite is substantial. But if you book 2 or even 3 rooms that are connecting or adjacent or simply near each other, you can save a ton of money by doing that. Plus, you're going to get additional bathrooms. Plus, you're going to get separation from everybody else. And you love your family, right? But like sleeping in the same room with them is not really conducive, especially if you have younger kids or even teenagers. Having separation, like a physical door between you, and also a bathroom that's secondary is so helpful. And it is one of my favorite family cruising tip. So before you book a cruise and assume, well, I got to book everybody in the same room, consider booking 2 cabins instead of 1. You might end up saving a lot of money and, more importantly, your sanity. Speaking of family travel, our next thing that seems really weird, and this was weird even to me when I first tried doing it, was leaving your kids on the ship when you get off the ship for a shore excursion. So when we first started cruising, we only had 1 kid at the time. Now we have 2 kids. But I remember the first time that we wanted to do a shore excursion that we knew our daughter was not going to be able to do, whether she was too young or simply not of interest to her. I don't remember exactly the rationale, but we were like, there's no way she can do this, but we really want to do that. And we thought to ourselves, maybe we're stuck. But as it turns out, you can leave your kids in Adventure Ocean in port while you disembark the ship. And it's a really weird feeling when you first do this, because you walk off the ship and you're off doing whatever. I mean, your kids are back on the ship. And as a parent, I think there's something a little scary about that, because in the back of your mind, you're constantly thinking, oh goodness, this is going to be weird. What happens if, something goes wrong and we don't make it back to the ship? Obviously, that hasn't happened there. But the good news is that Royal Caribbean does take care of your kids on board. While you're in port, Royal Caribbean's Adventure Ocean program is operational for all the hours you're in port, which is really helpful. If you want to do a Royal Caribbean shore excursion or go out on your own, you have those choices available to you, and you can leave your kids on the ship in Adventure Ocean. While your kids are there, they'll be fed, taken care of, and obviously have a lot of activities. And this can actually be mutually beneficial. For the kids, they get to play, hang out, and just enjoy being kids, while the adults can do an excursion that is more adult focused, like maybe going to a historical site or doing an ATV tour, something very physical that kids simply can't or wouldn't be interested in. This is an option for you. And it may seem crazy, especially when I tell my parents, like, hey, we left the kids on board the ship while we went to the beach. Like, they think that we're nuts for that one. But I gotta tell you, it actually is a win-win for everyone involved. Being in port leads us to our next thing that's really weird if you're new to cruising, and that is the idea of staying on board the ship while in port. A lot of people, including myself, when we got hooked on cruising in the first place, we like the idea of not only going on a cruise ship, but more importantly, going to some amazing places. When you book a cruise, you're probably looking at the destinations involved, in addition, of course, to the ship itself, right? You're looking at places like beaches in Cozumel, Mexico, or the historical sites in Europe, or maybe the amazing views in Alaska. The destination is the draw of it. But this may seem counterintuitive, but a lot of people do stay on board the ship while in port, and it's less about the port and more about the ship itself. Royal Caribbean designs these ships to be absolutely amazing. And when you sail on a ship like Icon of the Seas, or Wonder of the Seas, or Utopia of the Seas, and these amazing things, like all these cool things you can do, you have a limited time available on board that ship, right? And port time eats at that. Now, there's a couple of reasons to stay on board the ship while in port. Number one, maybe you've been there before, or you've been to a port, or you know of a port that isn't that exciting. A great example of this is typically like places like Nassau, or Falmouth, Jamaica, or just anywhere that you've been that doesn't really appeal to you that much. You can stay on board the ship and avoid maybe the disappointment of trying to find something that's inevitably not going to be up your alley. But more importantly, it allows you more time to enjoy what the ship has to offer. And the best part of staying on board the ship while in port is that it is far less crowded. When your cruise ship docks in a port, a lot of people get off the ship and do shore excursions. And that leaves a lot of the ship open and available. This includes the pools and the water slides and a variety of activities that are signature activities on board the ship. And if you want to take advantage of all that, this is the best time for it, including just simply hanging out at the pool and enjoying a less crowded experience. That's available for you. And yes, there are restaurants available for you to enjoy on board while the ship is in port. Not a lot, probably just the Windjammer and Cafe Promenade and places like that. But still, you're not going to go hungry while on board. And it may seem weird to do this, but a lot of people do this in order to take advantage of what the ship has to offer. And the last thing that people think are crazy to do when people talk about going on a cruise, and that is booking with a travel agent. You know, in today's world, we're talking about air travel and hotels and rental cars. Yeah, travel agents really aren't that helpful as they used to be. But on cruise ships, travel agents are not only helpful, they are absolutely the best tip that I can share in terms of how to book your cruise. When I talk to friends and family who are booking a cruise for the first time, I'll give them a lot of different tips, including something that we talked about here on this video. But I'll also say, guys, you've got to book with a travel agent. And they always think I'm weird about it, but it's all about saving money, saving time, and avoiding common mistakes. Cruises are different than land travel in the sense that it's a very personalized experience as to how you plan it. Like if you're going to go book a Holiday Inn, it's pretty much just booking a hotel room and it's all straightforward. But a cruise is a very different experience, in that it is very much depends on you and what you're looking for. And there's a lot of moving parts associated with that. There's discounts and options and things that change and deposit types and considerations like gratuities and travel insurance. And there's just a lot to account for, especially if you're brand new to cruising. So a good travel agent, number one, is there to help you all along the way. They can answer all the questions you might have, find you the best possible deal, and be your advocate all along the way. Plus, a good travel agent charges you nothing extra for their services. They make a commission off the cruise line, which has no change in how much you pay for it. It's the cruise line that pays them, not you. But really what a travel agent comes down to, the value of a travel agent is what you don't know. Because there is a lot to account for with a cruise. A lot of people think they can do it on their own. They go to a website, I can book this on my own. It's not about placing your credit card down. Anybody can actually book a cruise. That's really easy. But it's all things you're not thinking about because you don't know about that a travel agent can help you with. Do you qualify for a special group rate you had no idea existed? Should you book refundable or non-refundable cruise fare? What happens if you want to add or change somebody later on? What if Royal Caribbean screws up your reservation and drops you? Because that has happened. Why is a guarantee cabin not a great idea, or should you do that Royal Up option instead? These are all typical considerations that a good travel agent can help you out with. So again, you really stand to benefit from using a good travel agent. So there you go. There's the cruise tips that newbies think are absolutely bonkers, crazy, weird, unexpected about a cruise vacation. I get it. It's different. But trust me when I tell you, these 5 tips absolutely will make a difference in your cruise experience, and it's gonna be better for it, even though it is definitely different and weird. Let me know in the comments below, which of these did you ever think were absolutely crazy, then you tried it and then thought, you know what, they're onto something over here. And also, if I missed any things that you think, like what are tips and tricks that we all come to experience as cruisers as being common, but someone who's new to cruising thinks is absolutely nuts, let me know in the comments below. While you're below our video, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications. That way, YouTube lets you know when we have a brand new video to share. This has been Matt from RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and we'll talk again real soon.